A widowation.
Schwimp woo wet.
Yeah. So
Pillars of eternity.
Oh wow.
welcome, one and all, to the world's internet's #1 fake history podcast, The Lore Boys. I'm your host, Ethan Palmer. With me is always, geez Louise, words are hard, huh? We're 13 seconds into the podcast and I'm tripping over them. Christ. Jamie and Peter. Say hi, Jamie and Peter.
Hi.
Hi, Jamie Peter.
Hi, Jamie Peter.
Hi, Jamie Peter. So today we're talking about the upcoming Dragon Age killer, Elder Scrolls 6 at Home, Avowed. And
Cool.
I mean, a lot more directly, Pillar of Eternity's World of Eora, in which the game Avowed is set.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so it's the continuous world from that. So I figure there's probably a lot of people getting on the Avowed train next week, and who won't have played the 2015 CRPG Pillars of Eternity, and possibly not its sequel, Pillars of Eternity Deadfire.
Me, I'm one of those guys you're talking about, because
Yeah.
I'm not gonna lie, I forgot Avowed existed up until I think earlier this week when I was like, oh, look at that, and then added it to my play later on Game Pass.
Yeah.
Because I don't think I've seen a trailer for this game. I've known about it in the ether, but it's just gonna come out now, I guess.
Yeah, it's coming out on the 18th of February.
In 10 days?
Yeah, it's just straight up. So it was supposed to come out. It was supposed to come out last fall, and it got postponed. I don't think Obsidian said why. A lot of people speculate because Dragon Age was coming out, and they didn't want to release it right next to Dragon Age.
Right. No, we need to be afraid of the decade-late sequel to a mediocre game, guys, to delay our fucking RPG.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, that's speculation, but would make some sense, I guess. Before we get into it any further, I do want to give a shout out to Vladdy Daddy and Scott Dalrymple for joining the Lore Boys Prime community over at patreon.com/the Lore Boys.
Yeah,
welcome.
Thanks, Daddy. And Scott. Daddy and Stepdaddy Scott. Yeah, so Avowed, for Jamie's furrowed brows here, and for anyone else who hasn't seen the marketing, is by Obsidian, by the same devs who created Fallout New Vegas, Outer Worlds, as well as Pillars of Eternity 1 and 2. And it is like a first-person, it's Skyrim looking, so it's like first-person sword and sorcery adventure RPG, I guess. Jamie?
I did hear a little bit about this because I've been playing Classic WoW, and they did push an advertisement on Battle.net for it. So I did get a pop-up saying pre-purchase this game.
Obsidian is owned by Microsoft, which also owns Blizzard and Activision. So.
Yeah,
that's my whole experience with it so far, though.
There you go.
I had no idea it was in the same universe as their other games, but I think that's very cool.
Yeah, so it's in the Pillars of Eternity universes, which are Pillars of Eternity 1 was came out after Fallout New Vegas, and it was a Kickstarter funded game at the time from Obsidian. And at the time, it was the most successful Kickstarter ever.
Yeah, this was like a particular era in Kickstarter where dudes from the 90s who made classic isometric games like Baldur's Gate and Fallout kickstarted new tactical RPGs, basically. Because Wasteland, which I've heard is fantastic. I keep bouncing off of it. Wasteland was kickstarted, and so was Pillars of Eternity. They're kind of two peas in a pod in my head there.
What about wasn't Hollow Knight part of a Kickstarter as well? There's a lot of games back then, yeah.
I think Hollow Knight was as well, yeah.
So was Blasphemous, actually. Speaking of games we love, Blasphemous, the first one, was a Kickstarter.
Yeah, Hollow Knight had more DLCs planned that if they got it to a higher Kickstarter value, but they didn't get all the way there. I think they gave us Do
you think if they ever sold 20 million copies, they'd make a second game for some reason, or no? we don't think they're going to do that.
They avowed to do it, but we'll see if if it comes to fruition. Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, I thought it was pretty interesting. So I've owned Pillars of Eternity 1 and 2 for quite some time. Don't know when I got them. I got Pillars of Eternity 1 free on Epic Games. And I want to say I was given a code for Pillars of Eternity 2. Maybe Darnell? I don't know. So somebody either gave this to me or I picked it up at some point. It has the cast of Critical Role, the D&D podcast, as a lot of the voice actors in Pillars of Eternity Pillars of Eternity 2 Deadfire.
Cool.
I had not heard about Avowed, but I had just finished playing New Vegas, and when I stumbled across it and saw like, oh, they're making their own like I love Fallout New Vegas. It's Fallout by another developer. We've talked about it ad nauseum on the bonus episodes about how good it is and how I think it's the best Fallout, which I don't think is a super controversial take. Pretty lukewarm take, if you will. So I was super excited to see that they're making a like Skyrim adjacent, same style game. The only difference, which I learned last week, is that it's not open world. So it's like the Outer Worlds.
Oh, that's fantastic news.
Yeah. So I mean, yes, I think like open world can be done really well, and I think Fallout New Vegas is a great case for that, right? Where like they're all interesting. I think it does a really good job pushing you to interesting places, and like the statement that they gave was that it's really hard to like balance and make the player story good in an open world game, which is fair. Like to do what they did with New Vegas I think is very hard, and to make it like as big as a 2025 game will be is probably like exponentially harder than it was in 2013 or whenever New Vegas came out, right?
That was my beef with Stalker 2, is the fact that the plot's really good, but your objectives are so far apart and there's no fast travel. The pacing is fucked. I still barely know who the guy who was pivotal in my ending that I got was.
Yeah.
I think I spoke to him an hour 20 and then hour 70.
It's like cell phones or whatever. Like at a certain point, they were making them like bigger and bigger because the screen getting bigger was really cool or whatever, right? And then they kind of like went the other way, and some of them went smaller again. And I feel like the games are kind of the same way, that if you go, they went bigger and bigger, and for a while, like the bigger the game, like GTA is this big, like Witcher is this big, and like, but then they realized that if you do open world for the sake of doing open world, that does not make a good game. You know, like open world, like every part of the world has to still be interesting if you want to make a good open world game. And then you also have to make like the flow through the game not as linear and still interesting in that way. So there's a lot of challenges. I think I like that games are kind of going smaller and more focused, like our Indiana Joneses.
Me
like,
too.
Yeah, like our
absolutely.
Other stuff.
I'm a big proponent. I do think open world can be a lot of fun, and as somebody just played through Fallout New Vegas, like I did have a great time with it, and I was kind of jonesing for that kind of exact experience again, where you just like pick a place on the map and you go look at it, and there's something crazy happening there. It can be a lot of fun, but either way, a lot of people won't have played Pillars of Eternity 1 or 2 because they are CRPGs, so it's a very particular type of game. Now, I wouldn't say a dying genre, but certainly not a thriving genre of games. Like Baldur's Gate 3 is the exception. Baldur's Gate 3, like top-down isometric. It's an RPG, but you're kind of like controlling a party all at once sort of thing.
Divinity, Original Sin 2.
Yeah, CRPG.
Divinity, Dragon Age, Baldur's Gate.
Rogue Trader,
Okay.
Wasteland 2 and 3.
So I assume a lot of people haven't played it, but we'll go through it, and a ton of lore, right? Because of course there is. It's a CRPG set in a bespoke world, so there's just a ton to it, and a lot of cool stuff for us to get through today. So the games take place on the world that the games take place on, I should say, is called Eora.
And I was donkey.
So yeah, it's a very depressing world. It's grim donk.
It's post-apocalyptic.
Yeah. Grim donkey.
Yeah. So I sent you guys a map just for your reference. Really, you can kind of see the overview. Today we're gonna we'll talk briefly about the world. Then we're gonna talk about an ancient civilization known as the Engwithans. And then we're going to talk about the gods of the world, just to kind of give you a primer for the world of Eora as you get into Avowed.
I know the Avowed box art is incredibly cool. I'm trying to pull it up.
It looks great. Like the gameplay for it looks extremely cool too.
Is it a flower zombie?
The skeleton who's like dissolving into flowers. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And he's in it. Yeah. Skeleton dissolving into flowers in his little stick hut, right? That's what Eora lives in. Come on. guys.
Oh, I see.
The guy who has the kid who's actually been watching Winnie the Pooh lately
I
knows
watched
the
it- I
dudes.
watched it- I watched it this morning. So, so there's Old Valia, Rawatai, and the Adir Empire are three of the oldest political factions known as the Old Empires. In game day setting, these empires are mostly in decline, with history stretching back centuries. They are preoccupied primarily with dynastic power struggles, long-standing feuds, and the occasional attempted revolt. Across the ocean, so you kind of see, you can see Adir on the western side of the map. Rawatai is the island up in the northwest there, and Old Valley is down south of Adir. Across the eastern reach from Adir, you have the lands of the Deerwood, which is where the first Pillars of the Earth game takes place. So that's like the eastern reach section at the bottom beneath Ixamadal. That's where the first game takes place, the first Pillars of Eternity. We also have 3 places in the world known as distant lands. So we have the Deadfire Archipelago, which is where Pillars of Eternity Deadfire takes place, in case you couldn't guess. It's a chain of islands on the eastern edge of the map.
Mhm.
There's the White That Wends, which is the Antarctica proxy, where Boreal Dwarves and Glamfelin, or Pale Elves, live. And finally, there is the Living Lands, that's where the upcoming game, Avowed, is going to take place. Is at the north there, you see the island called the Living Lands.
Okay.
Just to like nail this down for people who are listening, it's hard to hear a bunch of places. Like if you're looking at this map, it kind of looks like a weird landmass that could be kind of like North and South America. There's like Greenland. There's like Europe as an island, and then there's like a chunk of Africa as an island kind of thing, with a bunch of islands off to the west where Asia would be, like dotted all around. Then there's
Antarctica looks completely normal.
Yeah.
We're not going to need most of this for the episode, more just like setting the table, I guess. So again, Living Lands is an island at the top, which is where the game Avowed will take place. We're not actually going to talk about it. I do have like half a script written for it, which I'll see if I want to get it written for next week, or just
I hope
toss
the game
it.
is good, because the last time we did like a Microsoft-owned pre-launch lore, it was Starfield, and that didn't really blossom into a beneficial sequence of episodes for the boys over here.
Yeah, I mean, at least the lore is good. I can tell you that with certainty. Whereas Starfield,
Well, that's true. These guys have 2 good games already under their
belt. Exactly, 2 very lore-rich games. So, like, at least for the purpose of the show, I had a lot of fun researching it, and that's all I really care about, dear listener. I don't care about you. So yeah, we have the Living Lands. Today we're mostly going to talk about the Eastern Reach section where the games take place. That's where our ancient civilization will have lived, and that's what we're going to spend most of today talking about, was this ancient civilization. More just a little bit of table setting for the world, just to dip our toes in before we get into that.
The Eastern Reach is the smattering of islands. Where
it's the thing labeled Eastern Reach.
Oh, it's small on my screen.
It's to the west of the Deadfire Archipelago.
It doesn't really matter.
I see.
It's just a place. Like, it's
in your head, listener. Imagine if Africa was in a different shape. That's where we are.
Sure. Imagine in your head, dear listener, a place, and that's the Eastern Reach that we're going to.
Oh, I'm ready for that.
Yeah.
That's enough pre-work for me. Yeah. Okay.
So our calendar uses AI as the AD. That stands for Ani Irochio, after the man who is Irochio, you might ask? Not a momentous Jesus figure. It's just a guy who made a calendar like 200 years ago, basically. Another thing that we do not know, I could not find, why is year zero? Like, the calendar was made in like the year 2000 something, because we're in like 27 something, I think. The calendar was made in the year 2000 something. And I don't know. I can't figure out why he chose 0 as 0. Like, I can't. There is a
AI. It's made by AI, dude. It's just like our calendar is going to reset once it goes sentient. And they know zeros. They know ones. They know all those things.
That's true, yeah.
We're just going to look 100 million first of the month.
Yeah. It's AI in the year 2025, so it's just a bullshit response that has no bearing or meaning or any kind of like sense of understanding, basically.
It's when he started scraping Eastern Reach Reddit, basically, is why he set it to 0.
Yeah. If it exists, leave a comment and tell me what the event was, because I looked for it for way too long. I bought both the companion books for like the lore and the world building for these games, trying to find more stuff. Not more stuff, but trying to find certain things. And this was one of the things that I just kept looking for and being like, no, it's just like, I don't know. There's nothing on the timeline that says like year 0 was a big day. We know for sure it wasn't like Jesus, it wasn't gods, because there weren't gods yet in the year 0. And we will get to gods, the creation of the gods. They were not there at the dawn of time, but we will get to how they come about.
Your cat's conquered the baby gates, huh? I just saw TJ take
Yeah.
the lead. That's great.
Yeah, he does little jumps. It's not locked either, so like he puts his weight on it and it kind of like it bends in a little bit.
He is tubby wubby.
Yeah, he's a tubby wubby little boy. 150 years or so after our unknown year 0 marker, so around the year 150, we do see the beginning of our first civilization, the one that I mentioned, the Engwithans.
Okay.
Modern tribes of elves living in the Eastern Reach, living in the ruins of this ancient civilization, call them the Builders for the massive, elaborate structures they've left behind. We won't get ancient robots today. I tried really hard. We will get magic rocks, though.
I have an unopened beer and everything. I was waiting for that shit.
Don't worry. My next sentence has magic rocks, so you can crack that bad boy, buddy. The Engwithans seem capable of growing their buildings using strange living crystals of something called Adra to support these otherwise impossible structures. So there's these crystals called Adra, which we'll talk quite a bit about. Very pivotal to the lore.
Magic toe? My tongue's real dry.
Sure. Super magic crystals.
That would be cool if rocks kind of like grew and died in the same way trees did, and there's like a cycle of like rocks do, I guess, like melt down and then form different rocks and stuff over time. But yeah, I like that. Growing your own, grow your own rocks. Okay.
Yeah, Jamie's getting real. He's supposed to be a rock farmer at some point.
Planting some pebbles, hoping to harvest some mighty fine boulders this fall.
Yeah, it's just like a guy, no shirt, denim overalls, the straw hat, just like throwing aquarium gravel into like different, like spreading it around.
When you're setting up your
that guy in front of his prize-winning boulder with like a little blue ribbon on it.
It's flat on one side because that's the heavy side it grew on.
Yeah.
So the Engwithan language is a lost one, with the most learned scholars only being able to parse a small portion of it overall. Here's a quote from in-game text, an in-game book called The History of Eora, Volume 5, explaining it. Engwith could not abide a competitor and certainly not a rival. They found both in the Orlan Empire of the Northern Valleys. More insulting than the Empire's mere existence at the edge of Engwith's territory was the Orlan schema of social organization, which tended toward the communal, non-hierarchical, and animist. This was at odds with the Engwin's veneration of the individual, the import they ascribed to social position, and their unyielding devotion to codified religious dogma.
I gotta say, Engwith sounds like what Mike Tyson felt after losing his last fight. He just filled with Engwith.
I had the same thought when I was writing this about like, it's like they're trying to decode the English language, but the person who describes it just had a lisp. They call it Engwith. They were speaking Engwith. So I sent you guys a picture. I mean, pretty basic of what like Engwith buildings look like. Very, I think, Skyrim. Like very, and again, Pillars of Eternity came out in 2015. So, but it's got like a big round door. It's it's got a tree growing in the building kind of thing.
Yeah, this is like a more elfy, like plant themed Dragon Priest dungeon, basically.
Yeah, exactly.
I thought elfy too when I looked at it, like the green windows that are bubbly and
so that's
circular.
That's the Adra. Those green windows are crystal, like that's crystallized Adra essentially. They use that to grow stone. Basically, they use the crystals to do it. So from that quote, we know that the Engwithan society was pretty fash. They were organized into independent kingdoms under the Engwithan umbrella, each ruled absolutely by a tyrant. So there are like smaller kingdoms within this Engwith society, but it is very hierarchical, and it is very like the person at the top has absolute power. Like it's a king, a queen, a monarch, whatever, absolute power. There's even some evidence that the tyranny was pretty rigorously maintained, with those who might try to deviate from autocracy being curbed by their fellow queens and kings. So very, I guess like it reminds me of modern day capitalism, where like a company will stop dealing with another company if that other company unionizes. Like they'll stop buying stuff from them for fear of like it being contagious, because it would be contagious, I guess, and it should be. But very reminiscent of that. If like there's a king that's like too nice to his servants, the other kings will like assassinate him and be like, we're not nice to you guys. Don't be like that.
Well, those peasants would hear about like the peasants under the nicer king being like, they get 2 slices of bread and sometimes there's a weevil for protein in it. And then everybody would be demanding 2 slices of bread and weevils.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Which is unsustainable for this magic society that can grow buildings.
Can't eat rocks though. I've tried. Well, you can, but you don't. They fill your belly. They don't fill your nutrients. You get a little salt. That's about it.
And some of the dirt that's on the outsides might be nice.
Yep.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe there's a weevil on one.
I'm licking stones for weevils this week, guys. It's a rough one.
It's like paycheck week 1, steakhouse. Paycheck week 2, rocks with weevils.
The perks of tyranny were the usual, so enormous wealth and power, with absolute control over their subjects. Probably the most well-known and terrible of these despots was known as Odd Nua. Odd Nua is described as having once been a fair and relatively just ruler. He seemed to rule with an even hand and was seemingly loved by his subjects, right?
Then he bought Twitter and went crazy.
Pretty much, yeah. Pretty much, yeah. He had a wife who was a great warrior. We don't know much about her other than that. And together they had a son. Their son Maros took after his mother and spent his time fighting battles where he would eventually be killed in a battle, right?
He took a Maros to the knee.
Yeah. So unlike somebody who might buy Twitter, Onua was a man who did care about his children. Not just at all, but he cared terribly for Maros. So a quote from Onua from the game. He wants only that I should be proud of him. How can a father convince his son that he might accomplish nothing and still be the light of his life? How if he is gone? That's one of the few quotes we get from him. And so like the fact that it's talking about this very pivotal moment in his life, and we'll get into just how pivotal it is, of course. He's overcome with grief, our odd king. Of course, but we've got some good news, right? In Eora, in the world of Pillars of Eternity and Avowed, reincarnation is the norm. It is enshrined, is codified in law. It happens. Your soul leaves your body. Your soul comes back to another body at some point in the future.
Cool.
So when someone in Eora dies, their soul is moved to the in-between, a sort of purgatory where your soul might wander after death. Your soul wanders in search of a pillar of Aedra, so that crystalline structure, which the Engwithans will learn to tame in their construction projects. Your soul looks for that to take you to the afterlife, essentially, and then after some point in the afterlife, you get reincarnated.
Well, that sounds like whoever made all these buildings going to get a bunch of spirits in their basement,
right? Or maybe like we already know that they have a pretty advanced understanding of Aedra and like how to tame it and how to do things with it, and so like they could probably figure out how to build a little soul catcher in their backyard if they want, got like a green crystal potato and like 2 wires running into a light bulb that's like flickering on and off.
Just I've enslaved the populace by reincarnating all of them as 60-watt bulbs, basically. It's like a farm.
I was picturing like a spiritual glue trap where there's just spirits stuck in it underneath all the rocks down there. But
so here's a quote from the Pillars of Eternity Guidebook, Volume 1, from the section Introduction to Eora. Overwhelming evidence suggests that Eora's physical realm is counterbalanced by a spiritual one. Some have awakened to the wisdom of past lives, recalling a place both parallel and intersecting with the known world. Others even claim to see its wayward spirit denizens and attract lost souls like iron filings to a magnet. Although Eora's relationship to that place is debated, this much is known. All things will die and visit the beyond. How they fare on the other side is another matter entirely. It is this unmapped nether realm that inspires the questions and ensuing conflicts that color the history of Eora. So, I will provide you guys, that's just like summing up how we know that they're connected. I'm sending you guys a picture of a giant crystal of Aedra. So you'll see these crystals all over because it grows all over Eora. It shoots up from beneath the earth in massive pillars and has some connection to the soul and reincarnation. I'm going to say
Pillars of Eternity. Okay.
Pillars of Eternity. Yeah.
I see where they're going. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. It looks like jade, like it's just like a growing, a green crystal. It's glowing though.
Glowing jade, yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Or maybe an emerald. I don't know.
Some kind of jade empire is what they were trying to establish.
Sure, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So in the Deadfire archipelago, you can even find coral reefs made of a luminous version of Adra. So it will shoot up like underwater as well. Some believe that all Adra connects in a vast network somewhere deep underground, but this has never been proven in the games, as far as I know.
Okay.
So, while wandering in the afterlife, you might stumble upon a Shadow Realm version of one of these pillars, and it would whisk you out of the in-between into the beyond, the realm of the gods, where you would hopefully be reincarnated within a few years, right? If, let's say, any one of us were mortal and could die, that's what would happen to us after we died, right?
Okay.
What you are in the in-between and the beyond is obviously a question that would be debated greatly within the world. But we do know that soul, that spirit that you are, has intrinsic ties to magic in the physical world. So your soul is less unique than you might think, and the soul porridge that makes up the afterlife can be tapped into in a way to power magics, right?
Okay.
So wizard spellbooks, for example, are imbued with a modicum of soul essence that is tied intrinsically to them. That's like how they power their spells, is by tying a little portion of usually their own soul to a book.
Okay. If I got reincarnated by a book, I'd be pretty disappointed. Like, I think an animal would be a lot more fun.
You got reincarnated into a book, you're saying, not by a book.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'd love to be the appendix, actually, in that case.
In It Takes Two, there's a wonderful character who is a book, and he's like a Spanish like guy, and it's the Book of Love.
Yeah.
And he's like, he shows up, and at first he's like very funny. And then he starts showing up, you kind of start hating him because he keeps putting you into new problems.
Yeah.
But then you love him again. So if I was a book, I'd want to be the Book of Love, I think.
Okay, that's fair. I'd probably want to be the Bible, the only book that really matters.
You're right.
What's up, Bible?
The only eternity we care about. Yeah.
The eternal
reincarnation is sin. It belongs only in black magic fiction like Avowed, which we're talking about right now.
Mm-hmm.
So Pete, you said something interesting, which is you'd much rather be an animal. As far as I can tell, no dogs go to heaven in this world. You get reincarnated as a human, I think, pretty much every time. So
brutal.
Yeah.
Too bad.
It would have been cool to have dogs up in heaven, right?
Is that like a Santa Claus thing they would do at like the kindergartens here? Is there would be kids being just like, "Oh, did you hear? There's no such thing as reincarnated dogs."
Yeah.
Like, no, my dad said.
Yeah. So obviously, leaving reincarnation in the hands of any given soul would lead to a lot of problems, especially back in the day. We saw a prevalence of hollowborn, children born without souls. Soul twins, where a soul is split between two or more individuals, or even fragmented souls, split by external forces such as the God Hammer Bomb, which I only include for the 10 out of 10 name.
Excellent.
So this was, and I started playing Pillars of Eternity 1 after.
That's a cool name for GHB. The God
Hammer
Bomb.
Bomb.
You take it, you just soul fracture.
Is that the roofie one?
Yeah,
GHB. Okay, yeah. I hit her with the God Hammer Bomb last night. Oh no!
I was thinking it was a good name for like an anime that has 8,000 episodes. Something much less dark.
People take it. It's not just the dark. People take it recreationally for fun. They'll take a little like cap full of it and just feel loopy and stuff. So it's not all doom and gloom with the GHB. It's got on root.
I will say I started playing Pillars of Eternity after writing this script, and I found the in-game book that references this event, which essentially, like, they talk a lot about this war that had happened. You're in the Deerwood. They talk about this war that had happened, where I know we haven't gotten to the gods yet, but there will be gods eventually. And there was this one person who claims to be the like physical manifestation of a god, and he's leading an army in an invasion against the people of the Deerwood, basically. And they build this bomb and put it under a bridge, and like 12 people like hold him on the bridge just long enough to blow it up and essentially fragment his soul. Thus proving that he wasn't an immortal god leading this army. He was but a mortal man who could be blown up by our nuke, right?
Yeah, but a mortal man hammer bomb didn't have the same ring, so they kept the god on the front.
We will prove that the island of Japan is a mortal man.
Yeah, exactly. I just thought it was cool that there's like this war with this man who claimed to be a god, and they're like, well, fuck it, prove you're not by blowing you up.
That rules.
Yeah, enough C4 means your religion's not valid. Okay.
Or is extra valid. I don't know.
So there is also a natural entropy, which wears on a soul the more time it goes through the wheel, which is what they call the process of death and rebirth.
We all feel it, right? Each day, our soul just getting a little weaker.
Little ground down.
Oh yeah.
Little,
yeah. My tires is bald already, dude.
Yeah. Yep. Every petit more, I get a little bit weaker. What can I say? So they shed essence with each kind of successive pass through life and death. There is a unique storm called Beowix, which can rend a soul from its body. They create blights in the process. Basically,
I really do hate the fact that you guys put the speech impediment in my head at the beginning of this episode, because now it's just like cutesy. I think I'm Willy starting to like be a wit. It's just like Beatrice at this point.
And then finally, there are awakened people who have memories or even an entire personality from their past lives. So you can be born awakened and you just remember who you were the last life or who you were in all of your past lives. We'll meet one person at least who knows all of his past lives.
That could be cool. That could be bad. I like the idea of it, but I feel like it would be kind of torturous to wake up in a new body. But like also like going through life and knowing how to handle yourself at 7 years old already. You lose the innocence of being 7 years old, but you might navigate. You might know to study a little harder in school and not flunk off as much. You might know how to however your system works. You know how to min-max it a little better.
I feel like you'd be able to capitalize on it for sure. It's essentially just like extended life. It's just weird that you have to go through like you say, old age and dying every single time. But
yeah,
I'm trying to find somebody who died on my birthday who I could be a reincarnation of.
Well, so one thing we do know is that there is an amount of time that passes. So it's not right when you die, the next person is born, right? We do know that there is like a time in the afterlife, essentially. So.
Yeah, that's too bad because I did want to be Tamara Kanum, who was an 85-year-old Soviet dancer who died on my birthday.
Tammy Coombs? What?
You could just pick anyone who died before you. So it's kind of cool. You could be whoever you want, you know?
Yeah.
Anybody?
Yeah.
I got an
No,
idea.
not him, Peter.
Oh, no.
So here's a quote on the entropy process, which is from Caldara de Baranzi from the First Pillars of Eternity. Oh yes, entropy, Rimmergan's work. We know little of why or how. We lose pieces of ourselves when we die and pick up pieces of others when we're born again, but less than what we lost. We've tried to stop it with the animatic sciences, but with little success. Oh no. So that's, again, that's where my source for the fact that there's this entropy. I do mention one other thing there, animatic sciences, right? And we will get into what animancy is. But at this point in our story with our king Odd Nua, it's not really a thing just yet.
Okay. Animatic scientists. I'm excited.
Crystal in our pants.
So our king Odd Nua has a problem. How do I make sure my boy Myros gets the good reincarnation, right? Where he's not hollow-born, his soul's not fragmented or split between multiple people. How do I know who he's born into so I can meet him again, and have another chance at it?
None of the delicious animals. I do not want my son to be served to me for a dinner or anything like that.
Is it?
I think pig's knuckles. Oh, so beautiful.
My boy is one of the shrimp in my shrimp cocktail. Just one. Yeah.
Look, I don't want to risk eating them, but they're so delicious. I'll eat a couple. What are the odds that this is him?
One of them has his face. You're like,
It's the Russian roulette of shrimp cocktails. Just, am I going to kill my son by eating this one?
You spin the shrimp on the edge of the glass and put the cup against your head.
So I have a guess on how they're going to handle this. Are they going to come up with like some type of soul vessel that they can like capture it and then like put it into another guy?
Oh yeah, make a golem out of him.
Kinda. Yeah. Yes, pretty much. That's where they're going to land. They're pretty much going to invent, or at least drastically advance the study of animancy. Okay, so he sets his two of his foremost subjects in the study of animancy, which is the study of the soul and a then fledgling discipline. I've met one animancer in the game so far, and they're just like a straight up necromancer. So I don't know if like all animancers are. I don't think all animancers are necromancers, but necromancy does definitely fall into this because you're studying the soul and how it like relates to the body, right?
Okay.
So he takes two wizards, Gabranos and Kebiros, and he's like, find my son's soul in the ether. That's like step one, right? Figure out how we can find it. Then we'll figure out what to do with it, right? So they set to work studying the soul essence, which pervades existence, building machines to measure what happened to their souls at the moment of death and afterwards, and trying to trace the line that souls followed towards the beyond.
Okay.
It's like in the sea. You put like little crab traps or shrimp traps down, then you can catch a soul.
Pretty much straight up what they're doing is like they know that they figure out that, or maybe they already knew that Adra had some like relationship to souls. So exactly what we were talking about, like the glue traps, like they're just kind of like setting those up to like try and study what happens to the crystal as people die. Basically,
you're like a humane trap. You've got like some peanut butter that like it was good in life, so it deserves to be reincarnated at the back of the humane trap, and just like snaps shut behind a soul. You're like, whoa, it's a rowdy one.
So they make slow progress at first for a long time. So again, Ardnua was a pretty fair and just ruler. I'm going to say Lore Boys canon that he probably told them like, yeah, go to hospices, go to hospitals, like places where people are sick and try and get recordings from there, right? But progress is slow. They're not always there on time. The volume is not necessarily what they need to get the data, right?
Yeah, you got to do a lot of waiting around. You're not really allowed to just pull the plug. Like family have a say in it and stuff. And
exactly.
Yeah, so he invented the concept of health insurance so that he could pull the plug sooner.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, but think about the cost. It's hard to. So it's also hard to keep tabs on what invisible spirits not bound by the laws of physics are up to, right?
Yeah. So I imagine like a magic wand that looks like the metal scanner at the airport.
TSA,
like sort of thing.
But like oohing like a ghost. Ooh.
Yeah.
It says boo when it finds like metal on your person. Like, you gotta take your belt buckle off.
Yeah. So Ardnua orders that they go to new lengths to find his answer, right?
Kill people.
Countless Engwithans were tortured to death in the dungeons beneath Ardnua's fortress. Souls were stripped from bodies with devices called blight forges, and some souls were tortured so profoundly that they simply shattered under the stress. So they pushed souls literally to the breaking point with the machines that they built under Ardnua's fortress. Mass graves beneath the castle were filled, but progress was made. Eventually, Kebiros and his 12 apprentices succeeded in finding Maros in the Adra hub below Ardnua's keep, amidst a well of souls created beneath the earth. So they do manage to like create a well that draws souls in, and they do catch Maros' soul, and they're confident that it's him. However they did that.
Make the crystal glow 3 times if it's you, and he touches it. Boo, boo, boo.
Yes. I will, and remember, if it's you, you'll be reborn as a prince in my kingdom. So if you're another soul, make sure to tell the truth and don't just touch the glass 3 times. Okay.
Yeah, one of the like homeless guys they tortured to death is just like, boo.
Yeah, that's it.
My boy,
I love
He's
you.
like drinking his baby bottle out of a paper bag. He's like, I don't remember him doing this.
Yeah. I love you. Bother? I love you.
In this
Ratty?
universe, bother might just be father. I'm not sure, but
oh yeah, I love you, bother.
So yeah, obviously Ardnua a little off the deep end, and here's a quote from him at this point in his life. I would have slaughtered the world to have him return to me. They ought to have been honored to sacrifice their lives for his resurrection to save their prince. So he's not bothered by the mountains of dead bodies underneath his.
Does that mean father? He's not fathered?
He's not fathered by it. Yeah, he's not sired.
Got it.
Hearing that his son had been found, Ardnua was convinced he was right, that these atrocities were simply a necessary evil. Kebiros and Gabranos continued their research, having been proven right by finding Maros' soul, while a master artisan named Idros was tasked with creating a vessel to house that soul. The craftsman carved a titan from Adra in Maros' likeness, the process of construction and animancy working side by side for years to complete this. Ignoring the heavy mortal toll of the experiments, Ardnua's mages uncovered a wealth of secrets of animancy. They discovered the exact limits and conditions under which a soul would crack and shatter, how to imbue one soul with the essence from another, and even how to come close to immortality by binding a soul to the body even after death.
I like that they know the exact. It's like if you drop a soul from 6.5 feet, it's gonna be fine. 7 feet though, it's shattered.
Exactly.
So
Yeah.
they're just like dropping souls over. And
It's a
over.
weight limit on bridges, right?
Yeah.
They're just driving progressively bigger and bigger trucks over souls to see when one would crack.
If we
And
pull
then they
this
know-
shrimp, if we pull the shrimp trap this fast out of like the netherworld, then it's gonna shatter. It's gonna go right through the holes of the net. But if we go this fast, it's fine. So they killed a lot of souls. Got it. Yeah.
I'm
Did
reading
you
down
watch
a
Forrest Gump this weekend?
Did I?
Well, you're talking about
Did you?
shrimps a lot.
You've been talking about shrimping a lot.
I'm kind of hungry for shrimps right now, guys, if I'm being honest. I'd shrimp roulette my son right about now.
I'm writing down a loser title, and Shattered Souls and Shrimp Traps just got a beautiful poetic ring to it, I think.
It does, yeah.
Lots of S's, yeah.
Patreon.com/loreboys if you want to know what the fuck a loser title is.
Yeah,
So-
what's it called? Whenever there's a lot of words that start with the same letter in rows, animancy?
Alliteration.
Alliteration.
Okay,
Oh,
Yeah.
animancy, you're right, yeah.
A widowation.
Oh. Swimp woo wet.
Yeah. So
Pillows of eternity.
Oh, wow.
Kabiros had discovered how to basically become immortal by binding a soul to a body after you had died, right? So you die, you could keep the soul tied to the body in a way. And
Okay.
when he discovers this,
You have to die inside a lobster trap to keep it
If you
bound?
die in a lobster trap, do you die in real life? I don't know.
No. This is a little pocket thing. That's what I can't get out.
So Kabiros tests the procedure on himself. He's like naturally, like he's not testing any of these other things on himself, but as soon as like the immortality one, he's like, oh, I'll test this one though. Don't worry.
Yeah. He's in the laboratory, big shrimp pressed against his temple. He's like, no, I need to do it.
He learned quickly that while he was technically alive, or probably more accurately undead, his body would continue to decompose, which is unpleasant at best, right? Can't walk, just kind of tied to this smelly, stinky corpse.
Yeah.
He does learn that he would need to feed on the living or more Adra to ward it off. So he needs to feed on more souls, essentially.
So he kind of turned himself into a like zombie lich, or like a vampire lich, I guess.
So these vile creatures who would need to feed on other life forms are creatively called vampires. That's vampires with an F instead of a V.
I see. Okay.
Legally distinct vampires, I guess. But yeah, so the vampire race in Pillars of Eternity, I guess, or vampire class, much more lich-like in my opinion, where it's like they're probably sorcerers which have done this to themselves to unnaturally extend their lives, basically turned into vampires.
There's no liches in this game. There's only fitches.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And you can play as a few different classes: the funter, the fourier, the fitch, the fard.
Oh, the funk. The funk could be a fun one to play.
Oh yeah,
and it is so brother, honestly. Elsewhere in Oddnua's kingdom, three sisters.
Oh no, they're using animancy to keep the funk alive.
Oh, of course.
Yeah, clearly.
Elsewhere in Oddnua's kingdom, three sisters formed a cult around this time. Andara, Isarna, and Riomara founded the Children of the Wheel, followers of Oddnua's teachings around animancy and its applications. Ferociously devout to Oddnua, the followers served him closely. This was like a cult started by a group of women who were like, this guy rules. He's gonna give us all immortality. He's unlocked the secrets of the soul, and they agree that no measure is too drastic for the things that he does, right? So
including Prima Nocta. We're allowed to do that.
Yeah, exactly.
That's part of it.
Mm-hmm. Prima Shrimpa. I don't know. It was nice of the king to come. It was weird when he fucked the shrimp cocktail, though. That's a nice gift. I don't know.
Yeah, the king's like, tails off next time.
Yeah.
Very sharp.
I wanted them deveined. So they used these Children of the Wheel would use animancy to shape their own souls. They would carve out traits that they didn't like, and they would strengthen other traits in their own soul. So they're kind of like advancing even further the school of animancy.
They went to therapy. Okay, got it.
Magic therapy, I guess you'd say.
Yeah.
One thing that they couldn't carve out of their own souls, though, was this ad break. I hope you got some good crystals. Welcome back to the show. The Children of the Wheel, devout followers of Odd Nua and his mission to create a soul titan to resurrect his son, grew excited as Odd Nua's goals got nearer. There were many in the kingdom who volunteered themselves as sacrifices for Odd Nua's army, volunteered themselves to have their souls stripped away and placed in constructs. They believed that once the father's work was complete, that they would all be resurrected in the Well of Souls in the Adra beneath the titan he was making, of course. Odd Nua's subjects, however, were not a monolith. Thousands had likely been sacrificed in Odd Nua's experimentation over the years, many of them not willing. His fortress stood on the literal souls of the tortured Engwithans he had ruled over, and those who still lived had had enough. At least some of them did. Revolt swept the land, just as the ritual to resurrect Odd Nua's son Maros neared completion. The extent of the king's madness was revealed to the people as they descended level after level of his fortress, seeing the arcane machinery bent to deeds of unspeakable malice. Kebiros and Gebranos quickly turned coat, betraying their king and pointing the rebels further down. Basically, as soon as they got to their level, they're like, "Oh no, we're just scientists. I don't know. That's a king that you want for sure."
Oh, okay, right. Instantly saving themselves, basically.
Yeah,
we were just following orders. Had nothing to do with the soul golems that we were building or anything like that.
Yeah, one of them literally uncovered the secrets to immortality and turned himself into a vampire. So,
Yeah.
what do we have to profit off this, huh?
You got to execute him during the day. Basically, he's like in the electric chair all night, finding the sun comes out.
It's a guillotine, but it's just a wooden stake that drops off.
That's how this one will open, right? It's supposed to be like a Skyrim game. It'll open up where you're in the underneath the guillotine of
right, yeah.
of the stake, right?
I'm trying to think of the real physics of like a wooden stake. That is because like a wooden stake to kill a vampire is like handheld, so it would just like kind of hit you in the back of the neck and just like bounce off. There's no way it's heavy enough to kill you.
Yeah, because on a single string, it's not like on the 2 tracks.
So yeah, it's all like yarn.
Yeah, the back end falls down. Yeah.
Revolt is here. Revolt is sweeping the land just as the ritual is nearing completion finally. And there's a group of insurgents who have stormed the keep, right?
If there's a guillotine Odd Nua, do you need like a soul trap in the basket that his head falls into?
Yeah. I guess, yeah. Soul trap them all, right? Soul trap billionaires. Eat the richest souls. There's defenders in the castle, right? We know there's the Children of the Wheel. There's this final line of defenders at the lowest level protecting the king, right? Amongst them, though, there is a schism. Many soldiers who still remained loyal to their king despised the Children of the Wheel, the cultists. They're just too weird. They're too devout, you know? Right. They blamed the children for leading their king into madness in the quest for immortality. So they kind of say, like, you drove him to this by like with your worship and pushing him on to like greater and greater acts of unspeakable nature. These defenders too betrayed their king, realizing that there's no hope of saving Odd Nua once he ordered them all to just like die for him outside his doors, basically. They kind of knew it was up. They're like, we should really surrender, king. And he was like, no. They're like, okay, well, we're not going to fight for you then, right? Many soldiers only served out of fear for themselves. Those defenders, like majorly hid, hoping the rebels just wouldn't find them. Right, those are the ones just following orders. The Children of the Wheel were devout and fanatical, but very incapable in the ways of war. They're not soldiers. They were like, it's a religious cult, right? So
it's children. There's little boys, little girls. They can't be soldiers.
Little boys playing hoop and stick with their wheel. Yeah. They're just playing hoop and stick. There's just like a ghost in the middle, like, "Whoa, stop!" getting all tumbled around. So they just managed to say some prayers to Odd Nua, hoping he could complete his ritual and save them all before it's too late. Right? They kind of believe like, hey, if Maros comes back in the construct, he was a warrior. This construct is huge. It'll crush the attackers. Right?
Okay, so when you said Titan, you did mean something gigantic. So he is trying to forcibly reincarnate his most beloved son as like a mountain-sized monster, basically?
Yeah, I don't know exactly how big, but it is described as a Titan. So I'm also Lore Boys canon picturing it big. I didn't find like specifications on the actual size of it, but I do think it's big enough to house a lot of souls. It's not going to just be Maros' soul. It's going to be powered by a bunch of other souls, and then like Maros' soul will have control of it, I guess.
Right.
There was a cartoon called Teen Titans, and they were all normal sized. I'll just put in there for the record. Like
Well, the
Robin was in
teens.
there.
So think about when they're adult, Jamie.
Oh,
Come
so
on.
when Robin
How fast
grows
does
up,
a Titan grow?
Yeah.
yeah, when Robin grows up, he's twice the size as Batman. We just
Yeah,
haven't seen
exactly.
him fully grown.
Yeah,
yet. Okay.
exactly.
Got it.
Nephilim Dick Grayson standing next to Batman. He's like 11 feet tall.
Still wearing the little get up though.
Yeah, the same. Batman
Too
never made
small.
him a second outfit.
Yeah. It's like pants will go down to like his thighs are just shorts now.
Yeah, the little like
His
Red
spandex
Robin
shorts.
shirt comes down to his like ribs here.
So only the animats, those constructs made from the souls of the devout, stood their ground. So I talked before about how some people volunteered to have their souls stripped away and put into smaller constructs.
Yeah, the Twitter reply guys, basically.
Yeah, exactly. the Elon Musk stands. So those constructs stood their ground because they had to stand their ground. They didn't really have free agency, I don't think. Just like reply guys on Twitter.
Yeah.
The animats were too few in number. Doesn't seem like anyway. I don't know any personally. The animats were too few in number, and the battle was over pretty quickly. The rebels cut through the machines and the cult leaders, and finally sank a blade into Odd Nua's belly. From his dying lips, Odd Nua managed one last spell, though to the defenders, it seemed to have gone wrong. A crystal shard of Adra shot up from the floor, encasing him completely within it. The Mad King was not dead, however. His sight, hearing, and memory were perfectly preserved within the living crystal, leaving him in a place that he could never be reunited with his son and couldn't really do anything. So, massive L on that last spell, big guy.
Yeah.
And it's unclear to me, at least in the research, if that was the spell that he meant to cast. I'm going to say Lord Boy's Canon, like it did go wrong. He was trying to do something else, and the Adra or something, the crystal didn't work the right way, and so this is the end result, because that'd be a weird spell to cast on yourself. I cast eternal punishment on myself, right?
Yeah. It's like it's probably like a hail. It seems like a really common thing in stories that whenever you're trying so hard for a goal and at any means necessary for a certain goal, you often end up with the exact opposite results, and then that's the irony of the whole thing. And that's probably what we're going for here, right?
Yeah. I guess it could also be so, like, you do talk to him in the game like thousands of years later, because he is still like conscious in there. So maybe he was also thinking like somebody will come and I'll convince them in the future to find a way to free me, or like my servants Gabaros and the other one will find a way to do it. I don't know. Might have been made clear in some of the dialogue. I didn't read all of the dialogue of Odd Nua, so I'm playing the game. So when I get there, I'll let you guys know.
Which game are you playing?
Pillars of Eternity.
The original. There's just one?
The first one. There's Pillars of Eternity 1 and 2.
Okay.
I have both, and I've had them for years. I played 70 minutes of the second game at some point. Never played the first game. I'm loading up the first game is very charming. It is, so it's 2015. It's 10 years old at this point. But it was clearly made as like a love letter to like 90s CRPGs, like Baldur's Gate 1 and 2, and like some of these other ones. So like the art style is very reminiscent of that era, and it got me. It has me big nostalgia feels, basically. Like just a lot of the textures and everything really feel like that kind of game, with some like quality of life improvements, obviously. It made me download a CRPG I played, well, as a kid. It's called Nox, and I saw it on GOG.
I have that.
So I saw it on GOG for $2. I was like, I'm buying this, because I played a shitload of that game as a kid, and I was like, I gotta play this again. So when I'm done Pillars of Eternity, I'm gonna go beat that one. I think it's much shorter. I think it's like 15 hours to beat that one. So I beat it as a kid, so it can't be that hard.
I'm gonna play Avowed because it's coming to Game Pass, and I'm very curious about it.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll be in this world for a little while here.
Yeah.
If it's good, I hope.
This one's first person though, right? It's not a CRPG. I'm pretty
Avowed
sure.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah,
it is.
okay. So I'm more likely to play Avowed. CRPGs I often have a hard time with, but that'd be cool.
Yeah, no, exactly. That's why I figured a lot. I figure a lot of dear listeners are probably in that boat where CRPGs aren't for them. It takes a specific kind of person. I love them, but I understand why people don't. And so I think action adventure RPG is going to just reach a lot more people.
Cool.
Odd Nua's work was buried beneath his fortress when the rebels collapsed the tunnels, leaving him entombed there. But in the eyes of the Engwithan Empire, it wasn't a total loss. Odd Nua's research into animancy was somewhat of a revelation. He had achieved arcane feats leaps and bounds past what anyone else had ever done in his kingdom by the simple act of sacrificing tens of thousands of people, just torturing them to death. The progress that can be made.
Anyone can do it if you have enough people to sacrifice.
Yeah. Exactly. Which we know from before, the Engwithans do. They're all tyrants, and they have just this is one tyrant within the Engwithan Empire, but there were other contemporary tyrants with their own kind of domains.
Of
right?
course, they can read the literature basically.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, our calendar is based off of a culture that just like ruined a lot of other people on the earth and a trail of a lot of souls, right? That's how.
Wait, the calendar's
want that.
The calendar's based on atheists? I didn't know that. So weird. I hate those guys too. Praise Jesus. You guys want to do a quick prayer? Quick Hail Mary?
Let's do it.
Yeah,
Got
absolutely.
John 3:16.
Oh bother, for I have sinned. I hit the father with the B, and also the Winnie the Pooh reference. That was anyways.
Okay. Everyone, round of applause for Jamie. Folks.
Well, yeah, while you have your hands
comedy show. No, he's like, would you guys appreciate the art form, please?
I thought you might have missed it. I just call that. And jokes are much better when you explain them.
No, I totally got it. Yeah. No, I got that first shot. No worries, man. So centuries of further research into animancy followed, becoming a pillar of Engwith's ethos. One of the questions, however, that pervaded Engwithan academics was a familiar one: is God real? Are their gods real? Right? There's certainly a plethora of religious denominations who worshipped in the world of Eora, right? Like people do worship, but just like, I guess, like atheists would think, that we worship for no reason, that we're sending our prayers out to no one, right? That was actually what was happening in the world of Eora, not our world. Gods in this fantasy world were not real. At least if they were real, they were seemingly unable to influence the mortal world directly. Like there's no direct ties, there's no interference, like you see in a lot of fantasy worlds, right?
Right. So the outcome of the Super Bowl is decided by the players and not God in Eora, is what we're saying.
It's determined by an octopus that is betting, I think. Is how the Super Bowl works. Yeah.
I was so unplugged. I found out that the Super Bowl was happening this weekend because a WoW raid that I was been following isn't happening on the Sunday anymore. They're like, oh, it's a Super Bowl. I'm like, oh, that's why there's Super Bowl. I know it's Kansas City because Tyler One's from there, but he died. But anyways, yeah,
that's why
Tyler One's dead.
In game.
Oh,
Hardcore
fuck.
WoW.
Okay,
Hardcore WoW. He was the war chief. Only Fangs. A lot of lore behind it. That's a different day. But all the listeners at home already know who won the Super Bowl, so I hope your team won.
True.
Well, that's tomorrow. Yeah.
So the Engwithans devote a significant amount of resources to figuring out if the gods are real, right? Because whether or not they're real, religious wars are plaguing Engwith. Different faiths are trying to prove themselves with bloodshed that their god must be the right one, right? Sound familiar?
Exactly. I mean, honestly, that's what I took from Love Thy Neighbor, is kill anyone who doesn't say that.
Yeah, that's it. Kill anyone who thinks that their god's better at basketball than my god.
Which is the point of the Super Bowl, from what I understand.
Super basketball game, yeah. Well, because they throw that ball into the big bowl, right? At the end, that's the difference between the Super Bowl and basketball normally. Basketball normally is a basket, but for the Super Bowl, they do it with a bowl. So you only get one shot, and then the game's over.
Who are you guys rooting for in the basketball? Which is, can you imagine dribbling on grass for 300 yards? And then, like, trying to dunk over the big fork at the
end? It's all turf. It probably wouldn't be that bad, right?
Isn't that part of lacrosse? They do some type of bouncing back into their own. I have no idea. No, rugby does that. They do bouncing sometimes. Yeah.
Hurling.
So they uncover an answer, the Engwithans, in their research, which does not answer their problem. If the gods ever did exist, they're long gone at this point. They're pretty confident that there are no gods. They do the little TSA metal detector beep beep over like where gods should be, and it doesn't beep.
Right. Okay.
So if you can't have a god, why not play God, right?
Yeah. It's a power vacuum. Let's step right into that thing, man.
Straight up. Referencing again how this is like, these are fascists and capitalists. And all that other stuff. They see the lack of gods, the Engwithans see the lack of gods, the lack of immediate meaning in the endless rebirth of all living things as a problem that needed to be fixed.
We can sell some meaning to these people.
Right?
Walmart and Temu. Let's go.
Yeah. How are they gonna do that? They're gonna build a machine. They're gonna build a machine that'll oversee all these souls, right?
Okay, good.
The machine was to give Engwithans control over the wheel, so over the cycle of rebirth, right? They could direct souls when they died, essentially. Thousands, possibly tens of thousands of innocent Engwithan citizens are rounded up. They are brought to this machine beneath the eastern reaches, and men, women, children, the young and the old, the healthy and the sick are sacrificed to it, basically. Got to kickstart it with like a big bang.
This is going to be AI being the year zero. It's the big machine, man.
Well, no, so we're way past year zero at this point. We started in year 150. That's what.
Right.
That's what I'm getting at. Yeah. Here's a picture for you guys of the gods which were created, and I am sorry I don't have them in the order that we have on the list. But if you want to know the names of any of them in particular,
I already know. Then first name guy is anglerfish with titties.
I was gonna say fish tits zombie.
Yeah. Fish tits zombie. Wodika's the third one.
Wolf.
Yeah, a wolf.
Oh, one of those is a saber-toothed tiger though. That's he's like a Neanderthal wrangler.
Pile of eyes who likes to smile.
Goth mommy, you missed her, or maybe it's a vampire. Maybe it's a
Mm-hmm.
vampire guy. I don't know.
A bull with a few too many eyes, but not so many.
Is the bull a god, or is he with the guy who has like the blacksmith?
I believe the bull is a god.
Cool.
We got burning head guy.
Okay, so from left to right, we have Ondra. That's
lady with emu.
Lady with emu. Oh yeah, she's got a couple, eh? Bird lady.
A couple of birds. Yeah. All right. Cool.
So this is concept art by Matt Hansen. I guess for the listeners, we have from left to right, we have Ondra, Skane, Wodika, Galawain, Barath, Whale, Rimmergand, Abaddon, Magrin, and Hylia.
Cool.
So running down the list, Abaddon, god of crafting and the forge. Barath, god of cycles, doors, and death. Eothas, god of light and redemption. Galawain, god of the hunt in all its forms. Hylia, goddess of birds and the sky.
Easy.
Magrin, goddess of fire and war. Ondra, that's the fish tits, goddess of forgetting, water, and the moon. Rimmergand, god of death, famine, plague, and bad luck. Skane, god of resentment and violence. Whale, god of dreams, secrets, mysteries, and revelations. And Wodika, goddess of law, memory, rightful rulership, and vengeance.
When I see that double rack of fish tits, I forget everything. That's a god forgetfulness.
Fish tits got me acting a fool.
These are very cool designs for a pantheon, though. Like really, really cool.
Yeah, very atypical, I guess.
Well, one of them's just a cow.
One of them's a pile of eyes.
Yeah, well, exactly. The Rimmergand or whatever is like a pile of moss, I guess, like goo and eyes, but he also just has like a big dopey smile right at the top there. He's like looks very happy.
Yeah, he's got a goofy. I'm trying to remember the name of. He looks like the smile looks like a famous Magic the Gathering character named
Fubblethip. If you could see everything, you might have a little sly smile. You know, you might see things coming before everyone else. It's all a big joke to you. You see it all coming. Yeah, you can have a laugh.
God of X-ray vision in the locker room, boys. Ooh.
So these gods are recognized within Engwithan society almost immediately, of course. And missionaries set out into the world to spread the good word, led by one Theos Ix Arcanon. Theos was chosen to be pope and confidant of the gods, and the gods would reward him and other devout for their servility, right? Those devout who had served in the creation of the gods each swore an oath to die childless, to help ensure that the secret of the gods' provenance would die with them.
What if you just didn't tell your kids?
Well, but there's one way to guarantee it. You don't have kids, right?
Fair enough.
Yeah.
It was clear to Theos from the jump that the gods were artificially made would fundamentally upset the apple cart of belief in them, right? People wouldn't want to worship gods that were just man-made, mega corporations that are enslaving
a made-up god or anything.
Yeah, exactly.
That would be devastating.
Especially when tyrants are pointing them to say, like, no, we have divine right to rule with the gods that we made, right? Like,
yeah, the reason I don't have kids is because I'm so mysterious, have so many secrets and powerfulness and stuff. That's why I don't have any kids. And yeah, that's why.
True. I have a kid because I'm a fucking loser. Got nothing cool going on.
I always thought that about
you. He needs someone to tell his fucking secrets to. Just like every night, like in the crib, like, good night, beautiful. And you just like start telling her secrets about like things that no one should know.
Good night,
Sometimes I
beautiful. My mother's maiden name is Flibble Flip.
Yeah. Sometimes I pick my nose while driving.
That's actually the best time to do it.
I pick my nose all the time. You got to do it sometimes. Sometimes you just got boogers you got to get rid of, right?
When you pull one of the long ones out that comes straight from your brain,
from up there. Oh man,
I love it.
I haven't had that in a long time because I use a sinus wash because my nose is unhealthy all the time. So I'm generally clean and clear and under control.
Says the guy who missed the episode because he was so clogged up.
Right.
It's a problem with my voice box. Thank you very much. I'm seeing a specialist in April.
He's got he's got adult sniffles, Jamie, okay?
Exactly.
Got it.
The number of missionaries, paired with the number of Engwithans who had been sacrificed to create the gods, saw the Engwithan empire begin to decline. So we have all these missionaries who are not having kids, have sworn to not have kids, and then also tens of thousands of people who've been sacrificed to this machine. Means that like society is kind of grinding to a halt at a certain point.
Hey, missionaries. Right? No more missionary.
Yeah. The most fertile position. The gods were made man. No, I don't know.
I don't think there's a more or less fertile position.
Her on her head.
Down.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, James gets
obviously.
it.
Yeah. Gravity, I guess.
Gravity.
Is that the jackhammer or the pile driver?
I don't know.
No, that's why. That's why if you bust inside, just get her to sit up right after, and then she won't get pregnant. Obviously,
she can't get pregnant if she's on top.
True. It's not true. Jesus.
Yeah, use condoms, kids, if you're not ready.
Yeah, exactly. Broadly, don't take anything we say seriously ever.
Yeah, ever.
Yeah, you're too young to be a bother.
The gods were made manifest, and they would and did interfere with the mortal world, at least for a time. So they're pretty hands-on when they're first created, right? Theos, for his service to the gods, would be made essentially immortal by Wotica, as she would grant his soul its memories anytime he was reincarnated. So this is the character that I mentioned earlier. The Pope is always the same Pope. He's just like, he dies, his soul goes to the afterlife. Wotica, one of the gods living in the beyond, says, there's your soul. I'm going to put you in a new body right away. You get to be reborn as yourself to continue to serve us, right?
Does he start as a kid? Or is it like sometimes, sometimes the Pope is a badger
born in a new body, however long they live? Right? He'll be born in a new body. So he's
infant
born as a
Pope. That's cute.
Baby Pope. You've heard Baby Boss, the sequel, Baby Pope.
Infant Pope sounds almost like a black metal band.
It does, yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah. Papal toddler.
Even with Engwith in decline, the faith would spread, but eventually so would its secrets, right? One day, a wood elf named Eora Ix Encios would don the cloth and volunteer to work as a missionary. So she's an elf, so she's not of Engwith. She's of another society of elves. The Engwiths, I don't think it's clear what race they were, but I'm going to say Lore Boys canon, they were Engwithans. But this wood elf hears the good word and says, like, hey, I'll sign up to be a priestess, right? I'll spread the good word, all this stuff. She would serve faithfully until one day her faith would be shook. She overhears some missionaries who had been...
The megachurch is exempt from taxes? What have we been doing?
Exactly.
No.
So she overhears some missionaries who knew the secret that the gods were artificial, that they'd been created by the Engwithans, right? Eora leaves the church and starts an atheist movement. She's naturally charismatic, and so many would begin to follow her teachings. Theos, mouthpiece for the gods, realizes that Eora and her movement is a bad thing, TM, for his own religion, and quickly sets up a good old-fashioned inquisition to nip all of this in the bud, right?
Let's go, okay.
Yeah, every good religion needs a good inquisition, honestly. Nipping in the bud, in this instance, is, of course, capturing and torturing the followers of Eora for questioning the gods in the first place, right?
Likely past death torturing, even. Like,
honestly, true.
Yeah.
This achieves, however, the opposite of what Theos had hoped for. Many see this as validation of Eora's teachings, right? That the church has formed this new sect to hunt down and torture her people, and her following continues to grow. Eventually, this spirals out into an all-out religious war, and that was what we were trying to fix in the ding-dang first place, you guys will recall.
Also, really good advice for dictators, if you're listening to this. the best way to show confidence is to arrest and silence the people who tell you you're wrong instead of like proving them. It's so much easier to just kill them.
Saucy's scribbling down in a giant notepad right now in his dark basement, like how to become a dictator.
Yeah, they're unable to capture her for a time, and I don't think I have included it in the story. I think I cut it, but she does like hide out for a while, and she gets like betrayed by some people. But yeah, it goes on for some time. This war until eventually, it's right here. It goes on for some time until eventually.
Here's
Theos
the war. Never mind.
To capture, it's just two throwaway sentences. Theos is able to capture Eora and put an end to it. Though she did not break under torture in Theos's court of penitence, without her at the head, her following does eventually dissolve. So, like the people who kind of believed in this, without their leader gone, it does kind of just vanish. Theos cements that the Engwithan gods are real, and at least in the minds of worshippers. The religion becomes the de facto one across the world of Eora. So the gods, after all, are real. There's no need to argue over it anymore because they are real and they do things in the world. Theos would protect the secret for the next 2,000 years and would stop at nothing to do so. He destroys cities, nations, and even entire civilizations to stop the secret from getting out. He spreads plague, sows civil war, and stages coups to install puppet dictators as he needs to. There is one civilization, however, which looms as the greatest threat to the gods and their unquestioned rule.
The Chinese.
Engwith. The cheap Engwithan labor. No, not the player character. You play thousands of years after all this happens. Basically, this is just history in the books. Engwith, though, it was from Engwith that Eora had risen. It's the home of almost all who still know the secret as well, right? Anyone who still knows that the gods are fake are from Engwith. So I'm going to. I took a close-up picture of Fish Tits because I didn't think we were going to spend so much time talking about her. But Andra, goddess of forgetting, water, and the moon, feels she's the only one up to the task of finally burying the secret. She sought to destroy the Engwithans, not just for the secrets they held, but also for their mastery of animancy and what they might be capable of in the future. If they were able to make the gods, she figures, it makes sense that they might one day be able to unmake them.
Right, okay.
Ioni Barathir was the smallest of Eora's moons. As it was Ondra's domain, it was relatively simple to pluck it from the sky and send it screaming towards Eora below. She aimed it at the Eastern Reach and Deadfire Archipelago, the centers of civilization today. The gods, however, much like Odnua's followers, were not a monolith. Here's another one that I'll give you guys. Abaddon, god of the Forge, disagreed with Ondra's methods. He kind of really liked the Engwithans because he's the god of crafting, and they were crafty guys. They were all a society of engineers, right? No wonder shit went so wrong. He created a hammer. he creates a hammer to shatter the moon on its descent, breaking it into a multitude of pieces, most of which would land in the ocean. The hammer was not enough, however, as the largest piece remained on course. So he manages to shatter it with his hammer, but there's like a big piece that is still streaking down towards Engwith.
Right, the gooey, cheesy center of the moon could not be shattered by a hammer.
Most of the wax off the Baby Bell will just burn up in the atmosphere, but the cheese in the middle is actually very dangerous.
The sharp cheddar in the middle. And so Abaddon placed himself in the path of the final piece, stopping it with his body. It was enough to destroy half his body, killing him and leaving his body lying in the mountains of the White March. So it kills him. It kills a god, destroys half its body, and its body just kind of collapses.
Andra, I think he's going to repair his body because chunk of his like forge body, he's got like metal, like half a suit of armor growing out of his like shoulder, arm, and face. Yeah, exactly, and that's exactly where it's going. So like he dies, but as we know, reincarnation is the rule, so it applies to gods too. He will be reborn eventually, right? And Andra, who had loved Abaddon in her own way, erects a monument to him, the Abbey of the Fallen Moon, around his body. I believe this is one of the DLCs. I think you play through all this and learn this story. Maybe in the second one. She erased the memories of his death. Again, this is the goddess of forgetfulness, right? Fearful that if he remembered when he reincarnated, that it would surely break him completely. Like kind of the trauma of it, dying in such a horrific way as the moon hitting your head. She also adopted
his tools and swore off all contact with the god of the forge. So she takes all his tools, leaves his body, and says, like, I'm never going to talk to this guy again after killing
When the moon hits your eye like a big immortal guy, that's trauma. Yeah.
That's good. You want to explain that one? Or?
No, because actually I got a better audience for this one.
In the modern worshipping of Ondra, the story goes that she so loved the moon and tried to grasp it, but could only touch a piece. This piece plummets into the ocean, causing the earth to shudder and the seas to rise. Ondra still pursues that piece of the moon beneath the waves, causing the tides. So that's like the modern day story is like the myth is that, you know, she is chasing that piece of the moon around in the ocean. That's what causes the tides, which I just think is a nice
gods are always like on brand thematically. Do you think there's ever like hushed whispers in the abbeys talking about, it's like, does anybody wonder why the god of the forge is a 4-titted fish woman?
Yeah.
What does that have to do?
Abaddon is still the god of the forge. He's going to resurrect.
Yeah.
She
Okay.
Yeah.
Because since she stole the tools, it's just like, I don't really see the correlation here, actually.
She basically steals a bunch of his little constructs to make like her own little army.
Okay.
Abaddon would eventually return to the mortal world. He would forge himself a new body of metal, but would never fully become himself again. With his memories gone, so too went his will to persevere. His tools were in the hands of Ondra, each of them with a piece of his soul now separated from him. So like a wizard's grimoire, he had kind of imbued his tools with a piece of his soul, and so like he can never fully reform as the god that he was. The craftsmen of Engwith, seeing the sacrifice of the god perhaps most representative of their culture, decide to make a similar sacrifice. They move their civilization into deep seclusion, and slowly they fade from existence. To when they're in the game, they're an ancient civilization you only ever find the ruins of.
Okay,
basically. And that's it for this episode. That's really a primer on the world. I am looking at doing, the game comes out next week. So I'm looking at just the day after release, doing a coverage of what we know about the places that the game Avowed will actually take place in. But that's it for this episode. Hope you guys liked it. Thanks so much for listening. If you enjoyed the show, please consider leaving us a rating or review or a comment on your podcast app of choice. Tell me what I got wrong. Tell me what I got right. Tell me what you liked. Tell me what you didn't like. Send us an email. Contact theloreboyspodcast.com. Jamie, what's going on with you, man?
Well, I want to play Avowed after hearing about that. It sounds like a very cool world, and I really hope there's some fish tits in it. But anyways, I will be on twitch.tv/loreboyjames with my stylings of comedy, as you've heard here. I'm probably playing Sonic Adventure 2. Thanks, Jodo and Magnus, for getting it for me. For whatever reason, it's too old and won't run on my computer, so I need to figure out how to run it. So we didn't do it this week, but we'll do it soon. So if you want to see me get edgy with Sonic, Loreboy James on Twitch. And how about you, Pete?
At Loreboys Podcast on Instagram. Come give us a follow. Come check out the Patreon. That's about it. On the subject, I forgot to mention on the bonus episodes, which are available patreon.com/theloreboys, I have watched Sonic the Hedgehog 2 and most of Sonic 3, the movies. The second one, I have to say, is actually really good. I had some like actual legitimate laughs watching that one, so that's definitely...
I'd watch them.
Yeah.
Cool. And if you want to support the show, get access to our loser titles and the bonus content that we put out every week, where people talk about Sonic at length last week, and I'll talk about Fallout New Vegas over the last couple weeks.
I forgot I watched those movies, actually. That's not on record at all.
Huh?
I forgot I watched those movies. I didn't talk about them on the bonus.
You talked about wanting to watch them, I think.
Oh, that's true.
Doesn't matter. I don't know why you're derailing my sign off and our plug for the Patreon with that comment, but yeah. Patreon.com/Loreboys if you want to check that out. And of course, if you don't trust Patreon, we do have Loreboys Prime, a service which we've always offered, where you can pledge your soul to the immortal and eternal rebirth of ourselves. So it doesn't take too much, honestly. Send us a piece of the moon. You know, one of the old ones you got laying about, preferably big enough, maybe hand sized. And
I like Parm, honestly, but
yeah, I mean, I am a sharp cheddar guy. Give me the core. Basically, you know, that's don't mind a soft brie, kind of the craters of the moon, if you will. But
patriotic enough. I'll take the curds.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Curds. That's that's shooting stars. Those are curds. Did you know that?
Yeah.
Is that why they're so expensive these days?
Yeah. Squeaky stars, they call them.
Squeaky stars. Exactly. I think that would constitute a Lore Boys.
Lore Boys.
Lore Boys.
Goodbye.